All right, let's dive right into this. Imagine a time, before light, before solid land, before a single star existed in the sky. Welcome to the primordial abyss. Today we're bringing you an explainer of Tablet 1 of the ancient Babylonian creation myth, the ENUMA ELISH. And honestly, this isn't just your basic story about how the world was made. It's a brutal, high-stakes tale of generational warfare, cosmic betrayal, and the explosive birth of ultimate power. If you're looking for a completely covered summary with high visual and cinematic quality, you are absolutely in the right place, because the imagery in this myth is just wild.
Just listen to how the text sets the absolute stillness of the scene, at a time when even the glories above had yet to be named, and unuttered was the word for the world which lay beneath. Picture that in your mind for a second. A universe of complete, undefined void. Nothing possessed a name, which, to the ancient Babylonians meant nothing truly existed yet. There was only this dark, silent, mysterious expanse.
Section 1. In the beginning. The really crucial point here is that this ancient universe doesn't kick off with solid earth or a spoken word of light. Nope, existence begins with water.
Vast, boundless, and deeply opposing bodies of water. Lurking in that deep, we've got Apsu, the first being and the source of fresh water. And alongside him is Tiamat, the progenitor, the massive, monstrous mother of salt water. The text tells us that the universe literally jump-started when these two massive primordial figures intermingled their waters. From this cinematic churning of fresh and salt water, the very first sparks of life, the first gods, were born directly into the abyss.
And it's a rapid progression from there. First came Lamu and Lahamu. But as soon as they matured, Anshar and Kishar were born, and the source explicitly notes they completely outshone their parents. Then comes Anu, who is greater still, and finally, Anu begets Ea, also known as Nudimmud. Each generation of gods is vastly superior, stronger, and smarter than the last. By the time we get to Ea, the text describes him as profoundly wise, full of insight, and possessing unmatched physical strength. The primordial parents had accidentally created beings far, far more powerful than themselves.
Section 2. The plot against the gods. Here is where the tranquility of the abyss completely shatters. We're moving from creation straight into our inciting incident, a brutal generational clash.
You see, this new generation of gods, they like to party. A lot. The text paints this incredibly vivid picture of their wild revels and echoing hullabaloo within their dwelling, under Runa. Imagine the sheer deafening noise of immortal beings celebrating constantly, sending shockwaves through the water. For the ancient, silent beings of the deep, Apsu and Tiamat, this commotion wasn't just annoying. It was physical torture that severely disrupted the peace of their primordial waters. They literally couldn't get a single moment of rest, day or night.
So how do you fix a problem like that? Well, we see a massive rift form between our creators. Apsu's solution is violently absolute. Just eradicate the younger gods entirely just to get some sleep. He's totally had enough. But Tiamat's reaction? She becomes absolutely incensed, despite the noise she screams at her husband, furious at the very idea of destroying their own offspring. She basically says, despite their troublesome ways, we ought to put up with it. It's maternal restraint clashing directly against murderous frustration.
But Apsu doesn't listen to Tiamat at all. Instead, he turns to his trusted officer, Mumu, who gives him this fatal piece of advice. Father, you ought to put an end to their annoying behavior, that one might relax during the day and sleep well at night. And with those words, a devastating secret pact is sealed. Apsu enthusiastically kisses Mumu, and they finalize a vile plan to slaughter the young gods. But remember, they are plotting against beings who are vastly smarter than they are.
Section 3. Ea's preemptive strike. When the rumor of Apsu's plot inevitably reaches the younger gods, they just fall into a silent, terrified panic. They're pacing around, completely helpless, until the most brilliant of them all, the god of wisdom, Ea, steps up.
Amia executes a magical, absolutely ruthless assassination. It's essentially the perfect heist in 4 steps. Step 1. Amia concocts a flawless, supreme sleeping spell and chants it over the turbulent waters, plunging Apsu into a deep, inescapable trance. Step 2, he strips Apsu of his power, literally stealing his crown and dressing himself in Apsu's divine mantle of brilliance. Step 3, he brutally forces Apsu down and crushes him to death in his sleep. And Step 4, he takes the advisor, Mummu, and binds him with a humiliating nose leash. In a flash of rapid magic and violence, the primordial father is dead.
Now what Ea does next is the ultimate ancient power move. He doesn't just bury Apsu,
No, Ea builds his luxurious personal residence, temples he actually names the Apsu and the House of Fate, literally right on top of the slain Apsu's remains. He builds his home on the corpse of his enemy and lives there in luxury with his wife. It is an absolute, undeniable display of dominance. Section 4. Birth of the Perfect God. This story is about to shift gears again. Inside this watery, blood-soaked temple, the energy builds, because the ultimate hero of our text is about to be born, rising from the remains of the old world.
And man, what a hero he is. Consider the terrifying anatomy of Marduk, the son of Ea. Talk about high visual and cinematic quality. His character design is just off the charts. He doesn't sound like a man, he sounds like an invincible titan. He has 4 ears of voluminous size to hear absolutely everything, and 4 eyes capable of perceiving anything. When he opens his mouth to speak, literal red flames leap out, and he's towering. His head is twice as lofty as any other god. He's biologically designed to be the apex deity. When his grandfather Anu sees him, he's completely overjoyed and declares with booming enthusiasm, "Marduku, my son, you are king of the gods." Marduk is instantly recognized as the supreme being. He's dressed in a shining robe fit for 10 gods, radiating 5 almighty beams of light right from his head. He's perfection embodied.
Section 5. The Storm of Tiamat. But, as we all know, power has unintended consequences. Let's drop the tone here for a second because things are about to take an incredibly ominous turn thanks to Marduk's shiny new gifts.
Anu, trying to please his amazing grandson, gifts Marduk control over the elements. He invents the 4 strong winds, tornadoes, and tidal swells, and basically tells Marduk to just let him rip. So Marduk plays with them. But this elemental playtime has a devastating side effect. It physically tortures Tiamat. The churning tidal swells continuously agitate her deep waters, leaving her unsettled day and night. The ancient mother, once again, has absolutely no peace.
Which leads us to a really pivotal question for you. Why does Tiamat finally choose violence? She defended the young gods earlier, right? Well, the older gods who live within Tiamat's waters come to her, exhausted and distressed, and they fiercely guilt-trip her. They say, "When they killed your husband Apsu, you sat by silently, and now these storms are destroying us. Have a heart, raise the war cry." They manipulate her grief and her physical exhaustion until she finally breaks. She agrees to eradicate the younger gods once and for all.
Section 6. The Monster Army Awakens. The war cry is raised. We're entering the darkest, most intense, and frankly most heavy metal part of this ancient epic. The pacing is accelerating because Tiamat is not holding back.
Tiamat calls a council of war and tasks Lady Hedubar to produce an unfailing weapon. Just look at this list of nightmare creatures. She recruits an unstoppable, ruthless combat force of 11 monster types. The towering Mushusu dragon, the horned snake, the scorpion man, the Yugalu devil, the mad dog, brutal Umu devils, half man, half fish, and half man, half bull. It's an absolute freak show of unparalleled destruction, armed with ruthless weaponry and entirely devoid of fear.
But here's the truly terrifying part. These aren't just big, scary beasts. As the text states, they are biologically weaponized. Their bodies are infused with deadly poison instead of blood. And magically, they're disguised. They wear mantles of brilliance and emit deadly beams so that anyone looking at them would think they're actual gods. They're designed to strike down anyone who gazes at them with pure, paralyzing horror.
And to lead this nightmare army, Tiamat brings out the ultimate weapon of control, the Tablet of Fate. This is a cosmic artifact that grants its bearer the power to speak unalterable law and pronounce the very fates of all the gods. Whoever holds this tablet dictates reality itself. This sets up the absolute worst-case scenario for our young heroes. Because Tiamat doesn't keep it for herself. She promotes the god Kinku. She makes him the highest general of her army, she takes him as her soulmate to replace Apsu, and she pins the Tablet of Fate directly to his chest. She tells him, "You now rule all of the gods." She has handed absolute universe-altering power to her new, terrifying Supreme Commander.
And we end Tablet 1 on this massive, chilling cliffhanger. Kingu, now wielding the power of reality itself, addresses his monster army. "What comes from out of your lips would obliterate flames. Your potent poison would serve to incapacitate the mighty."
The forces of the ancient abyss are mobilized, fully armed and marching to annihilate the young gods. So how can Marduk, even with his 4 eyes and fire breath, possibly survive an apocalyptic war against the very mother of creation? You'll have to consider that one, because the fate of the entire ancient universe is hanging entirely in the balance.